Welcome back to another chilling episode of CrimeSceneX. Today, we delve deep into 3 spine-tingling true horror tales from October. If these stories send shivers down your spine, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, and smash that subscribe button for more. Let's dive in. Moving to a new town is always a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Fallbrook was no different. Tucked away amidst rolling hills and dense forests, its rustic charm instantly appealed to me. My relocation was due to a managerial position at a local company, and while the town's slow-paced life was a stark contrast to the city's hustle and bustle, it was a welcome change. Within weeks of my arrival, Fallbrook was abuzz with preparations for the annual harvest fair. My colleagues were enthusiastic about it, reminiscing about past celebrations. The center of the town was transformed with stalls, rides, and games. Music floated in the air, and the aroma of freshly baked pies, roasted corn, and grilled meats was impossible to resist. During a lunch break, as I sat with my colleagues, Mark, an old-timer at the company, began sharing tales of past fairs. His jovial tone shifted when he mentioned the name Alan Grisham. The table went silent. Sensing my confusion, Mark leaned in. About 10 years ago, during one of these fairs, a young woman named Sarah vanished without a trace. The last person she was seen with was Alan Grisham. Alan, it turned out, was a bit of a recluse, known for his eccentricities. After Sarah's disappearance, he became the prime suspect. Though there was no concrete evidence against him, he left Fallbrook soon after, leaving behind a cloud of suspicion and whispers. The day of the harvest fair arrived with much fanfare. I was in charge of our company's booth, and as I was setting things up, Mark nudged me, pointing discreetly to the outskirts of the fair. There stood a tall, gaunt man, eyes bloodshot, hair unkempt. "That's Alan Grisham," Mark whispered. As word spread about Alan's presence, unease rippled through the crowd. Parents held their kids closer, stall owners exchanged worried glances, and murmurs replaced the festive cheer. Curiosity piqued, I decided to approach him. "Are you Alan?" I inquired cautiously. He eyed me warily. "Who's asking?" "I'm new here. Heard a bit about you. Thought I'd introduce myself," I said, extending my hand. He hesitated, then shook it. "I didn't hurt Sarah," he blurted, his voice laced with desperation. "We had plans, you know? Plans to leave this judgmental town and start afresh." He pulled out a folded, yellowed letter from his pocket. Handing it to me, he said, "This was Sarah's last letter to me. Read it." The letter was an intimate confession of Sarah's love for Alan and her desire to escape the prying eyes of Fallbrook's residents. She wrote of a place they'd meet on the night she disappeared. "I waited for her that night." Alan's voice trembled. "She never showed." Tears streamed down his face. "I returned, hoping for answers, for closure. But all I find are the same accusing eyes." With a heavy heart, I watched Alan melt away into the evening shadows, his silhouette merging with the dark woods surrounding Fallbrook. The letter became a crucial piece of a puzzle the town had long given up on solving. Though it didn't provide all the answers, it did shine a light on a narrative vastly different from the one passed down through whispered rumors. Fallbrook's harvest fair continued in the years that followed, but beneath the festivities, the town carried the burden of a tragedy that remained unsolved, and a reminder that sometimes, in our haste to judge, we overlook the truth. I always enjoyed the solitude that came with working as a freelance photographer. This October, the amber hues of the turning leaves had me particularly inspired. I decided to spend a weekend in the old cabin I'd inherited from my grandfather, nestled deep within the woods. It was the perfect place to capture nature's beauty, away from the distractions of city life. On my second evening there, while reviewing photos on my laptop, I noticed something odd in one of the images. In the distance, barely discernible, was a figure standing at the edge of the woods. I zoomed in, trying to get a clearer view. The pixelated image showed what seemed to be a man, staring directly at the camera, his face obscured by shadows. Feeling uneasy, I checked all the locks in the cabin. I reminded myself that the woods were open to the public, and it could have been a hiker or a hunter. Still, a feeling of unease settled in my gut. The next day I ventured out, hoping to dispel the paranoia that had taken hold of me. As I was setting up my tripod near a stream, I felt the unsettling sensation of being watched. I scanned the area but saw no one. Laughing at myself, I went back to my task. As I peered through the viewfinder, I froze. Reflected in the calm waters of the stream was the silhouette of a man standing directly behind me. Whirling around, I found no one. My heart raced. Was my mind playing tricks on me? Packing up hastily, I made my way back to the cabin. The short walk felt agonizingly long as every rustle of leaves set me on edge. When I got back, I barricaded myself in, deciding to leave at first light. As night descended, the woods came alive with sounds. It was during the eerie silence between these sounds that I heard it. A soft scratching at the cabin door. I held my breath, listening intently. It was persistent, deliberate. My phone had no signal, leaving me feeling even more isolated. Hours felt like days. As dawn's first light crept through the window, the scratching stopped. Waiting no further, I packed my things and headed to my car. As I was about to pull away, I saw an envelope on my windshield. Inside was a photograph. It was a picture of me, taken from outside the cabin window as I looked out into the woods with a fearful expression. The back of the photo had just 3 words: "See you soon." I sold the cabin shortly after and never ventured into those woods again. I had recently moved to a small town, taking a job as a librarian. The library was housed in a grand old mansion donated by one of the town's founding families. The mansion, now public property, held thousands of books, but it also held the town's most closely guarded secrets. On my first day, Mrs. Carmichael, the head librarian, gave me a tour. She hesitated slightly when we reached the West Wing. "This area holds the oldest records," she explained, "but it's also less frequented. Some folks believe it's unlucky." I laughed it off. Superstitions weren't my thing. For the first few weeks, my tasks kept me busy in the main areas of the library, but one day, I received a request for a rare document believed to be in the West Wing. The wing was dimly lit with heavy curtains blocking most of the sunlight. As I searched, I stumbled upon a box of old photographs and newspaper clippings. One clipping caught my eye. It detailed a series of unsolved disappearances in the town dating back a century. All the missing persons had one thing in common: they were last seen near the library. Intrigued, I dug deeper. I found a journal from 1892 belonging to a man named Elias. As I read, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Elias wrote about being stalked by a shadowy figure. He described feeling watched while in the library's West Wing, and sometimes seeing a silhouette following him home. The last entry was particularly chilling. "I feel his presence stronger now. He's near. If you find this journal, know that he is real, and he watches, always." As evening approached, I decided to leave. As I walked down the corridor, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I hurried, but the feeling intensified. I glanced behind, and for a split second, I saw a shadowy figure at the end of the hall, just standing there, looking at me. Panicking, I rushed out and locked the wing's door. Breathless, I shared my experience with Mrs. Carmichael. She went pale. "I had hoped this was all just town myth," she whispered. "Elias was the librarian before me, and he vanished without a trace. People said he became obsessed with the West Wing." Feeling a responsibility to Elias and the others, I contacted local law enforcement. Together, we conducted a thorough investigation, unearthing a series of hidden tunnels beneath the library, leading to various parts of the town. They were clearly used recently, suggesting that whoever, or whatever, was responsible for the disappearances was still at large. Security was heightened, and the tunnels were sealed. The West Wing, however, remained closed to the public. Though no shadowy figure was ever captured or identified, the disappearances stopped. But to this day, every time I pass the West Wing, I can't help but feel a set of unseen eyes on me, watching from the shadows. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please like the video, comment what you thought, and subscribe for daily uploads.